JD1, JD2, please.
Yes, I'm here.
Please don't come closer.
Closer. Water. Thank you, sir. Thank you. You also. Thank you.
The most awaited time has now come, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome His Holiness the Dalai Lama, accompanied by Honorable Mr. Justice Sanjay Karol, Chief Justice, Patna High Court, come Patron-in-Chief, Bihar Judicial Academy, and Honorable Mr. Justice Hemant Kumar Srivastav, Judge, Patna High Court, come Chairman, Bihar Judicial Academy. May I now request Honorable the Chief Justice and His Holy...
Together. Okay, sir. Thank you. We got this all.
May I please request Honorable the Chief Justice, Mr. Sanjay Karol, Chief Justice, Patna High Court, come Patron-in-Chief, Bihar Judicial Academy, to present His Holiness the Dalai Lama with a shawl and a memento. I also request Honorable Mr. Justice Sanjay Karol, Chief Justice, Patna High Court, come Patron-in-Chief, Bihar Judicial Academy, to present a photograph of Bihar Judicial Academy to His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Those who are close to our heart and are always in our mind need neither any welcome nor any introduction. The Dalai Lama is embedded in every part of our physical and mental body. It is not for nothing His Holiness the Dalai Lama has such universal recognition. He is a man of peace and has been awarded Nobel Prize for his policy of non-violence. And he is the only Nobel laureate who has for the first time been recognized for his concern for global environmental problems. With such spirituality and international recognition also true to his persona, he describes himself as a simple Buddhist monk. It is a matter of great privilege and honor for all of us to have him here and listen to his discourse on the basic concept of spirituality, that is, love and compassion. Karma, good or bad, as they say, always come back. For me, this karma has come back for the good, to have this great honor and privilege of being blessed today in person by His Holiness. Let me recount a few of the achievements accredited to His Holiness. He has transformed the whole world zone into a peace and has popularized the concept of non-violence. Some of his remarkable quotes from His Holiness are as follows. Be kind whenever possible. I find hope in the darkest of days and focused in the brightest. My religion is very simple. Love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. I do. Oh, thank you. A great honor. The roots of all godliness lie in the soul of appreciation for the goodness. In the practice of tolerance, one's enemy is the best teacher. This sums up the personality of His Holiness. I'm sure all of you sitting here in this hall, judicial officers or whatever cadre, would stand blazed on by His Holiness, who is the manifestation of Avilokatsva, the Bodhisattva of compassion and a saint par excellence. I may also inform you that his faith and dedication to democracy can be seen from his act of relinquishing his political powers and limiting himself only with the spiritual affairs. Listen to him intently, directly, and you shall benefit from the discourse immeasurably. Thank you. Thank you.
Respected elder brothers and sisters, and the remaining brothers and sisters. I always use this word, brothers, sisters, because basically we are same. As a matter of fact, 7 billion human beings are actually our brothers and sisters. So today, you see, we, too much emphasis, we and they. On the religious basis or national or city basis, a different country like that. And within one country, distinction, rich and poor. All these are seed of our problem. So only remedy is we must develop the sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. All are brothers, sisters. I think child, young people, young human being, they don't care what religious faith, what different nationality. So long as is showing human affection, smile, play together. Gradually we too much emphasis on different nationality and races and color and religious faith. So now today we already noticed many problems is our own creation. Firstly, there's mobilized violence, and that is a war. In the previous century, First World War, Second World War, and also you see different concerned people prepare Third World War. All this on the basis of too much sort of emphasis on we and they. So only remedy reduce this kind of thing is try to develop sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. We mentally, emotionally, physically, we are same. And then most important, everybody want happy life. Do not want trouble or problem. So on that nature, why we create a lot of problem? Why? Everybody, you see, want peace, friendly sort of society. So now, ancient India's concept, over 3,000 years, concept of ahimsa, and concept of karuna. These are very basis of happy society, happy family, and ultimately happy world. So 1,000-year-old India's sort of concept, ahimsa, karuna, this I think world need. And the promotion of these things, not through ritual, prayer, but through education. We must utilize human intelligence, to show violence is actually ultimately mutual destruction. So, out of anger, kill one your enemy today, then next year new enemy come. Other hand, if we keep sense of brotherhood, sisterhood, no matter how difficulties from their attitude, still we are same human being. We have to live side by side with that belief and try to reach out. So these days I call dialogue is the human way to solve problem. Weapon is not human way. So I think past century produced a lot of weapon quite ferocity. Everywhere some problem or some disagreement happen, they always use weapon. So some scholar, they say, past century, nearly 200 millions of people killed through violence. But problem still there. The best way to solve problem is dialogue. In order to carry meaningful dialogue, you must respect other. Consider as our brothers, sisters. Small disagreement always happen, even within one individual. Morning, you have one idea, and afternoon, different idea. So these two different idea itself is a contradiction. But since this idea has come from one single person, so will not sort of causing any problem. So similarly, 10 human beings, different views, different interests, but all our human brothers, sisters give sort of that spirit and some little sort of problem we can solve through friendly manner. So sense of brotherhood, sisterhood, are very, very important. Then this India, democratic country, rule of law, wonderful. I think rule of law and democracy, I think the result we can see. Now, India, I think second most populated nation, very peaceful. This peaceful from also wholeheartedly peace. Other side, another big populated human country, China, looks peace, was everything control. India sought peace through voluntarily, with enjoy full freedom, and little problem you can solve peaceful ways. So I think India is the, I think, second most populated nation, peaceful. One sort of factor, rule of law. So your profession, they are very important to build happy society, happy country. If a lawyer or judge think more seriously about their pocket, then that's very difficult. So India, usually we describe Arya Bhumi, Bharat, Arya Bhumi, land of Arya Bhumi. So not only Aryan sort of race, in our sense, Aryan sort of, because Arya means the more mentally through spiritual influence people more peaceful, more honest, more truthful. So in 7th century, 8th century, Tibetan emperor, through marriage, very close link with Chinese emperor, but their heart always India side. For example, 7th century, Tibetan emperor Songtse Gampo married with Chinese princess. Then I feel he found this Chinese letter too complicated. So he, instead of learning Chinese letter, he decided to develop our own script copy from Devanagari and alphabet, Kakakanga, Chachachanya, like that. That's 7th century. Then 8th century, Tibetan king, Chusong Tesen. You see, he also, you see, very close link with Chinese because of the, from father's time, you see some forefather, some sort of through marriage, very close. And also Buddhism introduced in Tibet by Chinese Buddhists. And one very important Buddha statue, originally Buddhagaya, then eventually reached China in Xing'an, ancient Chinese capital. I have been there and I visited that temple, small Buddhist temple. In the center, one empty seat there. They say the Buddha statue from here went to and brought to Tibet with Chinese princess. So very close link. But the 8th century, the Tibetan emperor, now he, instead of bring Buddhism from China, he want Buddhism should bring directly from India. So at that time, the Nalanda really sort of top sort of highly developed that time. Nalanda institution produced number of top scholars. You see, we use some of these scholars' writing. We use as our text. Really wonderful. Like Nagarjuna and Arya Asanga and the Buddha Palita, Arya Deva, and for logician, Buddhist logic, the great master Dignac and Dharmakirti. They are writing, still we use as our text. Study 20, 30 years. So, the 8th century Tibetan king, he wanted to establish Nalanda tradition. He invited, at that time, top master of Nalanda institution, Chandra Rakshita, great logician, great philosopher and monk. He invited to Tibet, and he, in spite his old age, he accepted. He came to Tibet. He introduced Buddha Dharma according to Nalanda tradition. So, since then, over 1,000 years, we Tibetan sincerely follow his teaching. So, I think those Tibetan emperor, Tibetan king, they are quite wise thinking, long run, long-term interest, like that. So now today, the Nalanda tradition, the Nalanda itself now ruined. Some pigeons there flying from here, there, like that. But all the knowledge which carried by Nalanda institution, you see, all, brought to Tibet, and then the 8th century, the Chandra Rakshita, he advised to Tibetan emperor, since you have your own writing, so all those important texts, instead of study Sanskrit or Pali, you see, you should translate. After Chandraraksita reached Tibet, and he established a department of translation. He himself provided Kasara. So under his guidance, translation started. Now eventually, now today we have 300 volumes in Tibetan, all translation from Sanskrit and some Pali, and perhaps some Nepalese, and very few books from translation from Chinese language. So Tibetan history over 1,000 years, as we described, Arya Bhumi, we truly become a student of ancient Indian master. So I usually telling or expressing, traditionally, you are our guru, teacher, we are chela. And then I also add someone, we quite reliable chela. All these Nalanda knowledge, still we kept very alive. Through 30 years study. I myself also, age about 6, 7 or 7-year-old, I already started to memorizing some of these root texts. So at that time, my intelligence quite good, but I was quite a lazy student. So my teacher threatened me with one whip. So at that time, I have no interest study these things. But gradually, my life become difficult. Then these, also the ancient knowledge of India, extremely helpful to bring inner peace, no matter what sort of the situation. You can keep peace of mind. And that brings willpower. Now today, you can see Tibet. Over 70 years, Chinese communists much sort of suppress, and about, I think, 1 million Tibetan killed. Various sort of method. Chinese communists, narrow-minded communists, they practice, but Tibetan spirit never died down. Still today, you see, about 6 to 7 million Tibetan in Tibet, or different part of China, Tibetan races, they all carry our spirit very strong. So now recently I heard some Chinese top leaders, you see, they realize their policy, suppression, is wrong, unrealistic method. Now they are thinking more realistic sort of method, realistic approach dealing Tibetan issue. So all these Tibetan people, we have very, very rich cultural heritage from India. So Tibetan nation, generally speaking, very proud. Chinese Han people also is very proud. Equally, we Tibetan also are quite proud. We have our own language, our own script, and then Buddha Dharma is concerned, because we, as I mentioned earlier, text, Dignak, Dharmakirti, these logic, Buddhist logic. China, they have not much interest about the logic, so in the past history, never translated this importance of text about Buddhist logic. We study. So, Tibetan, quite proud. And I come very remote area, northeast Tibet. But I feel we're quite proud. You see, we have our own language and our knowledge about Buddhist philosophy, Buddha Dharma, because we learned a logical approach. So, compared with Chinese Buddhist, it's our mind more sort of smart. The Chinese Buddhists, Buddham Shanam Gacchami, Buddham Shanam, like that. Not much sort of logical knowledge. The logical way approach is investigate, not just faith. Buddha himself, you see, express, my follower, monks, scholars should not accept my teaching out of faith, but rather thorough investigation and experiment. So, for that, logic, very important. So when we saw Buddha's sort of teaching, our immediate reaction is, why Buddha stayed there? We never say yes, yes. The Chinese, yes, yes, yes. Truly. So therefore, now Tibetan, as a nation, these Nalanda tradition really give us self-confidence and willpower. So, from that viewpoint also, we very, very grateful to this country. And then, me personally, now since 1959, I become refugee. And one way I refugee, one way I'm longest guest of Indian government. So now these days I describe myself as the messenger of Indian thought. Wherever I go, I always talk about ahimsa, karuna. So I truly, you see, carry the ancient Indian message, karuna, and ahimsa, wherever I go. So, I think 60 years as a guest of Indian government, I think now, almost I think I pay back because I carry the message of India to everywhere. And then India's also the tradition, the secular way, not based on religion, even non-believer, I believe in this religion, that religion. It's a personal matter. So long we are human being. So ahimsa, karuna, very relevant. So not based on religion. That's a very wise India's tradition. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you see, we logical approach, everything logical approach. So therefore, we have very close link with modern scientists. Because we investigate, not say yes, yes, but why? So now today, some Chinese university scholar who saw some publication which we made here, some Chinese scholar, he said after seeing these texts, they described Tibetan Buddhism is genuine Nalanda tradition, and that tradition is very scientific tradition. So we now as an Indian, I'm a government sort of city guest. Wherever I go, I always carry these ancient Indian thought, Indian message. I think among Indian leaders, I think so far I never saw someone who really carried these ancient Indian thought.
Truly an ambassador.
So now, over 60 years, in a way, refugee, but in a way, I fully utilize India's freedom, democracy. So I have the best opportunity while I become refugee. If I still in Tibet, no such freedom. So I really feel, remain this country, enjoy India's freedom and free media. Like that. So, and then the Karuna is key factor for happy individual. Most destructive emotion is anger, hatred. Now scientists also say constant anger, constant hatred is actually eating our immune system. So more compassionate mind, peaceful mind, very important for our health also. And then some scientists say, basic human nature, we are social animal, therefore basic human nature is more, compassion. Because any social animal, the sense of concern of remaining their sort of community by nature for their survival, entirely depend on the community. So taking care of the community by nature, because of the physical, biological factor. So, human being really need a sense of concern of others' well-being. So now India's 1,000-year-old tradition, ahimsa, compassion, this, I think, now world need. A lot of problems which we are facing is our own creation. Because with too much emphasis the political matters or some different, even religion, you see, use, causing conflict. Impossible. All religion, in spite of different philosophy, all religion carry same message of love, message of forgiveness, tolerance. And of course, use different philosophy. Major world religious tradition, they are theistic, believe God, creator. and Sangha philosophy, Jain philosophy, Buddhist philosophy, no also the creator, but rather self-creation. So philosophical field differences, but in spite of that, all carry message of love, compassion. So therefore, now today's world, in the name of religion, killing each other, unthinkable, unthinkable. So, all religion, in spite of different philosophy, different concept, all carry the same message. So in that respect now, India is the example. All major religious traditions can live together harmoniously. Wonderful. In here, among Indian Muslim, I never heard complaint about Sunni and Shia. Like that, in this country, I think from childhood, they already know there are many different religions. So they take for granted. So the concept of several truth, several religion is there. Some country, they say, who have not much contact with wider sort of the human being, then they just one truth, one religion, then that causing problem. So in terms of individual concept of one truth, one religion, very good. In terms of humanity, a group of society, then it is impossible. So automatically, according to the reality, several truth, several religion, they all carry the same message. So India's religious harmony, I think, wonderful. Now Indian religious scholars and leaders, I think, should be more active, where you see those areas in the very name of religion fighting. So India should make some contribution to promote religious harmony. That's very, very important. One of my commitment is promotion of religious harmony. I have full confidence religious harmony possible. Look, India, over 1 billion human population and all world religion live together here. So this is my commitment, promotion of religious harmony, also learn from India. It is a living example. And then my latest my commitment, I am trying to revival of ancient Indian knowledge about mind, about emotion. And India is the only country who can combine modern education and ancient Indian knowledge. Ancient Indian knowledge brings mental peace. Modern education brings physical comfort or material development and technology, science, wonderful. But that alone, not taking care, not knowing about emotion, then look, Western nations, generally speaking, is a modern education, they're highly developed, and technology, science, highly developed, but mental level is too much emotion. So therefore, the world need 1,000-year-old India's tradition, ahimsa, karuna. These are mental level. So through education, not through prayer, not through ritual, as I mentioned earlier, secular way. So in order to significant contribution to world humanity, firstly, within the country should revive this ancient Indian knowledge, how to tackle our emotion, through fuller knowledge about a map of our I mean, with sort of full knowledge, usually I could describe map of emotion, full knowledge, then we can, through systematic method, to reduce anger, to increase karuna, like that. So India, very, very ancient sort of nation. Now in modern time, I think combine ancient these knowledge and modern knowledge, and through that way, you can truly make significant contribution for happy world through inner peace or through karuna. So now some question.